James, pronoun he, him, calling in from Mighty Oranges. Great
right.
big, like Kern River, you know what I mean? Yeah. James says he has evidence for God. So let's talk about that.
All right.
James, you are on the line with Forrest and Darante. How are you doing today?
Hi,
I'm
James.
doing absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
Me too, man. That's awesome. All right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
tell me really quickly, please, what God are you claiming you have evidence for first? Let's start there.
Well, I'm for the Most High God, but I come to God through the Christian experience.
Okay. So that immediately, like, I have questions, but like, it's not going to be super helpful because you say like the Most High God, like I'm like, okay, so Allah, but then you say Christianity. Okay, well, I'm not sure.
Excuse me, the unknown God. I come to the unknown God through Christianity.
Oh.
I'm sorry, the unknown God, not Allah. The God I've come in contact with is unknown, but he brought me in through the Christian experience.
Okay, James, really quickly, I'm getting some crackling from your mic. Would you mind backing off your mic just a little bit, just to make sure that doesn't happen so much?
Okay, how's that? You all right?
That's a little better. That's fine.
Okay. All right.
So really quick, I just want to clarify. You said that this is an unknown God. Does that mean that it's Does that mean that it's unknown to everybody? That you are the only one who has experienced it?
Unknown to everybody,
but known to you.
No, God is unknowable. You can't know God. We don't have enough intelligence to know God. But God works through intermediaries.
Okay, I'm trying to understand. I really, really am. You say God is unknowable. You mean to say that like you know he exists, or you can't know he exists, or like you do know he exists, but you don't know anything about him?
You can know he exists, but I know he exists through a Christian experience. Came in me to the understanding that God exists.
Okay. I'm having a hard time understanding, but I'm hoping we can kind of get there a little bit more. So like, tell me about
what's your name again? What's your name again?
My name's Forrest.
Get it.
My name is Forrest.
Forrest.
Yeah.
Forrest. Okay, now what are you, a biologist, or what are you?
Yeah, I am a biologist, yes.
Okay, so you study biology, you're a scientist.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay, well, you can say some things to me about science that would be no way for me to know about it except I had to study. And to get to where you at in your study, I don't think I could make that trip. But you could tell me some things. I would just have to take your word for it about biology. I couldn't prove what you were saying is true because I wouldn't even know how to begin to understand it. I'd have to go back and start at the beginning and work myself up to where you are.
Okay, and so you're saying that it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Are you saying that it's the same kind of situation with this God, that the God is so like lofty and high?
Just think about it. Just think about it. We're still discovering stuff today that's been here all the time. You say, I think you were talking about we're getting into AI and biological stuff that was unheard of 1,000 years ago. Didn't even enter in people's minds. But now we are discovering these things, but they always been here. But we didn't know it.
Oh.
Okay.
So are you saying AI has always been here?
Pardon me?
You saying AI has always been here and we didn't know it?
I think he's saying like the ability to do shit like that.
Okay.
What I'm saying is Darante, is this here. Protons and neutrons have been here always, but we didn't know that it was something smaller than the atom till we split it.
Right. So here's the thing for me is that like I appreciate where you're coming from. I really do, because that's a lesson that I teach all the time. It's like, you talk about atoms, right? Back in the days of the ancient Greeks, hypothesized about something like atoms, but we had no way to prove it.
Hold up, Forrest. Excuse me now. I'm not no scientist. This is what I think I heard about Adam. After the Adam was
you don't have to
split,
be.
then they found stuff inside of it. I'm just telling you,
that's what I'm getting to.
When they
it's just that
Adam. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm just
what I'm trying to explain is that, like, you know, back in the ancient days of like the Greeks, like thousands of years ago, we had ideas about atoms, and it took thousands of years for us to demonstrate that they were real. And then it took decades after that to demonstrate that they had a different shape. And then we learned a little bit more about what they were made of. And then we learned a little bit more about what the position of those parts were. And so we're learning new stuff all the time about atoms. And even right now, the model that we have for atoms isn't perfect. And we know there's stuff that we have left to learn about them.
Good.
But what we see over the course of history is a progression of knowledge about them, where we are, it's not like tomorrow we're going to learn something new and we're going to learn that atoms don't exist. It's that we might learn something new that tells us that atoms are a little bit different than we thought. And so that's what we see over the course of history with that, is like we are changing our mind based on new evidence. And you're talking to me about God here and saying that God is something so incredible that, like, we just don't have comprehension of it yet. And I'm wondering if there is a similar progression of knowledge that's at least gotten us to where we are now. Did we used to know less about God, and now we know more, that we have a better understanding of something that's getting us closer at least to the idea of what you think God is? Or do you think that it is so unbelievably beyond us that we have never known anything meaningful and could never know anything meaningful?
Well, I think you misunderstood me. I'm saying there are some things that are unknowable right now. God is one of those things. You could know God in some kind of comprehension, but how you going to fully know God right now?
But
when there's so many other things that you don't know.
But I'm sorry, do you think that we could eventually, sometime in the future, be intelligent and technologically advanced enough that we could actually really know God?
I do. I believe that. I believe that.
Okay, so you think that there is such a thing as a God, but that we don't have the ability right now to understand it, but eventually we possibly could. Is that, I just want to make sure I'm understanding you. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. I'll accept that. Yeah, I'll go along with that.
Gotcha. Okay. I just want to make sure I'm understanding where you're coming from.
Good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. I have a couple of different questions, but like, Darante, if you're still here and you want to stick with this, then I'm cool with that, because I was going to move on to the next thing, but I don't want to.
Yeah, I just want to ask James, because you say God is unknowable, beyond comprehension.
Right now. God is unknowable right now.
But also, James, right now, you're making a claim that you know God. Do you not see the problem with that?
Well, I think it's a terminology. I know that there is a God, but I don't know enough of that God to tell you what that God, all that God is. But I know there is a God.
You're right.
But I don't know.
James.
I can spell your name. I can spell your name.
Oh, my goodness. James, you about to make me cuss you the fuck out, bro. James. You're using the word wrong. You're right. You're right. It's a terminology problem, James.
Yeah.
I am rude, James. That word don't mean a damn thing to me. I can be rude, nasty, whatever the fuck you want to call me. It don't mean a damn thing. As long as I'm not a dumbass, James, I'm really happy. I'm really happy, James. I got a smile on my face. I got a little buzz on too, bro. Like, I am really okay. I am so good, James. James, I am so good. Like, oh my goodness, thank you.
I applaud you. I applaud you.
But James, you are absolutely right. It is a terminology issue. God cannot be unknowable and yet known by you at the same time. So what you should have accurately stated is, I believe there is a God. But by the same token, I also believe that God is unknowable. Therefore, I should have the fucking intellectual humility and honesty to say that I can't make any claims about that God until that God is indeed knowable. Because if you are claiming that a God is unknowable, unknowable, shut the fuck up, James. If you are claiming that a God is unknowable, then you are introducing people to a God that they can't know, which makes you useless as fuck, James. That makes you just as useless as the God you're peddling. And it breaks my heart that you don't recognize that.
I muted him.
Now I'll hand it back over to Forrest for the next question, because I'm not going to like you, James.
No, I'm willing to let James respond to you, because I have a different line of questioning that I think might help elucidate the situation. But let's see, make sure James is brought on there. Yeah, James, I'll let you respond to Darante first.
Okay, what do I need to respond to?
I figured.
What he just
figured.
Said. Yeah. That's
how can I say that God is unknowable, but you can know God? That's what I want.
How can you say that God is unknowable and yet you make claims about God as if you know this God?
Well, it's the same way about my father. As a child,
no,
I didn't know about father.
Not.
I knew his name. I knew what he looked like. I knew his name. I knew he was my father, but I didn't know who he was.
Sir, if you knew what he looked like, you knew him, sir. Like, stop it, James. Stop it.
I'll say we got it. This is another terminology question. One more terminology question.
Oh my goodness.
It's terminology, Darante.
So
no,
here's the thing for me, James.
It's epistemology. It's epistemology.
Who am I talking to now? Who am I still talking to now?
James, hi, it's Forrest. I have a question for you. Like, I think the hang up that Darante and I are having here is that, like, go back to the talking about atoms, right? Like I said, thousands of years ago, the ancient Greeks came up with the idea of atoms, and it took thousands of years for us to demonstrate they were actually real, and then we were still wrong about them.
Did the ancient Egyptians know anything about atoms before the Greeks?
I don't think so. I think Aristotle was the first person to talk about atoms in a way that we could recognize.
Well, we don't have anything written in hieroglyphics to say that the Egyptians knew anything about atoms.
I don't think so. I could be wrong about that, but I know
you
for
can't
sure.
Really commit. Yeah, so you really can't comment on that because you haven't studied it yet.
Well, I have no evidence of that. I'm also I don't think.
But I have evidence. I have evidence of a God, but I don't know God.
But here's the thing. What I'm trying to get across to you is that, like, when the ancient Greeks talked about atoms, when Aristotle talked about atoms, the word atom comes from the Greek word atomos, which means undividable. And the reason why it is that is because
atom is something that is undividable. So they named it after an Egyptian word.
No. And so here, just hear me out. I promise I'm getting.
That's what he's doing.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get you like on a science lesson here. I'm really trying to explain a concept. So please just hear me out for a second, okay? Is that like so Aristotle asked a philosophical question. He said, if I take this piece of iron and I split it in half, I now have half of the iron. If I split that in half, I now have a quarter of the iron. If I split that in half, I have an eighth of the iron, but it's still iron. And if I split that in half and that in half and that in half and half and half and half and half, how far can I split something in half before it isn't iron anymore? And the philosophical question was, is there something that is like a fundamental piece of what iron actually is? And that is what he called atomos, undividable. The thing that if you were to break that down, it could not be called iron. It's an undividable, fundamental piece of what it means to be iron. And that is exactly what an element is. It is an atom that is a fundamental piece of one particular kind of thing. And so what that was just a philosophical experiment. At that time, there was no scientific reason to believe in atoms. It took thousands of years for us to demonstrate what they were, and then several decades after that for us to then come up with the actual proof that these things were elements, that there really was such a thing as a fundamental piece of iron. And then, as you pointed out, we were then able to divide the undividable and find out that there were even smaller parts. But Aristotle was ultimately right. If you break down an iron atom, it's not iron anymore. And so here's where I'm at with this, is that you're coming at this with this idea of God. as if we are at the level of the Greeks. We have this basic understanding, a philosophical approach to an unknowable God that we don't have the means to test. And we are as far away from understanding God, at least, as the ancient Greeks with their philosophy were from 1950s and 40s, when we were actually learning a little bit about atoms, and even before then, but it doesn't matter. But like the point is, like in the 1900s, when we're learning what atoms are and actually splitting them and actually learning about them. And I can appreciate that perspective as a scientist. I can.
Mm-hmm.
What bothers me about it is that there have been plenty of other scientific ideas that have started out with that same philosophical, logical approach, but never found the evidence. And in fact, they found evidence that went in the other direction. Lamarckism, for example. Lamarck was an ancient evolutionary biologist who believed that if you cut a tail off a rat, all of its babies would have no tails, because that's how heredity worked. And that wasn't true. And later on down the line, we proved that wasn't true. But philosophically, with what we knew about heredity at the time, it made sense. And so how do we, like, my question to you now that I've rambled for a minute, thank you for letting me. My question to you, James, is how, if we're at this level where we don't understand this and all we have is that philosophical intuition, how are you so confident in saying that you will be vindicated in thousands of years, rather than just having the humility to say, I don't know if this is true or not. I like the idea, but I have no way to be sure. That is my question to you, James.
Well, first of all, I believe that is a unified theory, a unified theorem. I believe that, and I believe there are a lot of scientists who are definitely pursuing that.
Sure. To no avail so far.
Pardon me?
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was just saying, like, to no avail so far. So once again, that's a really great thing, but we don't have proof of it yet.
Okay, well, going back to your thoughts on the so-called philosopher Aristotle, who wasn't really a philosopher, he was really a sophist. But his theory, you said, was good, because you said if you chop it in half, it'll still be that. But we got to the point where it wasn't that. But that took, I don't know how many thousand years, maybe 2,000 years or something, for we to get to that point.
Something like that,
bring his theory to fruition. Yeah, so it's the same way with God. But when we're looking at God, we're not looking at a few thousand years. We're looking at billions of years, man. You know how old the universe is?
13.8 billion years,
So if a God created the universe, and it's 13, how many billion years old?
Oh, how many? Goodness.
How many?
It's 13.8. I want to know
13.8 billion years since the Earth, since the universe been in existence. So if there's a God behind that, then how much older is the God? And how time frame short are we? And look at what we have evolved to in those 13 billion years. Look what we always.
And that's a fine question.
Yeah.
And that's a fine question, James. But the question did ultimately start with the word if. And that if is doing a lot of heavy lifting for you. If atoms are real, we can demonstrate it. And we can. But if Lamarckian evolution is real, we can't demonstrate it. Like,
I don't know what that is.
Well, I'm sorry. It was a way of saying what I was talking about earlier. So, like, if atoms are real, then we can demonstrate them, and we do. But if Lamarck's ideas about evolution are real, we should be able to demonstrate it, and we can't.
Oh, about the rat's tail.
Yeah. And that's just one idea that came off the top of my head. There's a bazillion different stories in science.
That has never been true. Was that believed at any time? I never heard of it. Was once upon a time, was that believed?
It was believed.
Yeah,
and same thing with like with
how long was it believed?
A couple of decades. It took a few decades because it took a few decades for it to be like thoroughly dismissed.
Decades? And they believed that for like 20-something years. They've been chopping rats' tails off for 20 years. They've been chopping rats' tails off for 20-something years.
Let me give you,
never seen a book.
I tell you what, let me give you a slightly different example, if you'll allow me. There was a guy back in, let me find the exact dates because I don't want to steer you wrong here. Hold on just a second. When was Galen around? It was the 1st century. Yeah. So Galen, there was this guy named Galen, who was a Roman and Greek physician, surgeon. He was he practiced medicine, and he was around in like 100 to 200 CE. Okay, so 100 to 200 CE. This guy's living thousands of years ago, and he is a scientist. He's a doctor, and he is studying like the human body and how to do medicine, how to do surgery, how to cure diseases and stuff like that. And he writes this whole book about human anatomy, and that book was used to teach about human anatomy for actually like over 1,000 years. Galen was finally debunked in the 17th century. So from the 1st century, from this guy living in 100 to 200 BC or CE, 100 to 200 CE, all the way up to the 1600s, we are reading this book that Galen has talking about how to do surgery on humans, and it's not fucking true because we never tested it and we didn't have the tools to learn more about it. We did, but we didn't use them. So like, that's what I'm talking about here is that like, you have this idea and you're saying that someday, millions and billions of years from now, we will have the ability to understand this God. And I don't understand how you're comfortable doing that when I can tell you a bunch of stories about science where we had an idea that wasn't fucking true and we proved it not true a long time later. And that was dogmatic thinking. That was bad science. That was wrong. And I think that's what you're doing here is you're saying that you like this idea of a God and you have a philosophical reasoning for the God, but you don't have any actual evidence or any data for it. And you're using that lack of evidence as proof that someday you'll have it. And I don't think that's how you should approach this, man. Does that make sense?
Sort of, but I do have evidence. See, we never got to my evidence. We got off on other things. But I got evidence
Let's talk about your
for
evidence.
my belief in God.
Let's talk about your evidence.
Okay,
well, hold up. Let's clarify. Hold up, James.
Yeah.
Do you have evidence of your belief in God, or do you have evidence for God? Which one?
Of God.
You have evidence for God.
Evidence of God. Yeah.
All right.
Let's do it.
Let's go. Now, I felt like you were about to start with a scripture, so that scares me a little bit because that's not evidence. And so I'm hoping that's not where you were going with that. And if you were, this is a great time to pivot.
Well, that's where I was going. But I think I like the other question. I like the question that Forrest had brought up about Galen. And it came off of the scientists cutting off rats' tails to see what they offspring be born tailless. They did this for 20 years. Never saw it happen. But somebody wanted to prove it until it just became so fruitile, they just gave it up. When people looked at the evidence, the recorded evidence, said, look, man, y'all been doing this 20-something years. Ain't nothing happening. Y'all need to quit this. And somebody
it was that we had evidence for Darwinian evolution instead of Lamarckian evolution. So there were Darwin and Lamarck had like competing theories about how this stuff happened. And we found Darwinian work.
But these are two totally different things. They had the evidence right before them for 20 years. Cutting off rats' tail for 20 years and never seeing their offspring grow without tails. For 20 years. So they didn't have any drugs or anything back then, but they was on, maybe they thought if they discovered this, made it real, then it would make them famous or something. But it seemed like 20 years they did it. But you're talking about Galen now. You say Galen wrote a book on surgery. Now, didn't the Egyptians do surgery 4,000 years before Galen? Did the Egyptians do surgery? Did they do brain surgery? All right, then. So brain surgery was something that had already been understood to a certain extent. Now, but here's the question. Here's the thing I want to say. You listen to Galen for 200-something years, right? Before he got
closer to 2000. Yeah, almost 2000.
I'm sorry. Yes, you say he was born in the 1st or 2nd century. All right, AD. Yeah. Right. So 2,000 years, people believe this. until more light came on it. And when more understanding came, they were able to see, hey, this ain't the way, because they had a more light, more understanding, more knowledge, more evidence, more procedure, more ways to study things. So I'm looking at Darante. Now, Darante was in church for 20-something years, I think, as a Christian, 20-something years. Now, for the first 10 years, he was deceived. You were deceived for the first 10 years because you thought it was right. But for the next 10 years, you were a deceiver. Now you done got into this kind of work. How can anybody trust anything you say? You were deceived in church. You were same question. It's the same question. He was deceived in church. Then he became a deceiver. Then he got out of the church. Now what is he now? A deceiver or a truth teller?
James. Listen. Let's walk it through. All right, we'll walk it through. Are you a deceiver right now, James?
No.
Because I'm gonna be honest with you. Both Forrest and I are here tonight. We're both educated men. We're both degreed men, and both of us have identified several things that you've said that have been absolutely bullshit. And not at any moment have we called you a deceiver. Not at any moment have we said you're a deceiver, because what we understand.
But were you a deceiver? Were you a deceiver in the church? Were you a deceiver in the church?
Can you shut the fuck up?
Muted.
What you don't understand, James, is that even in this conversation, you have said stuff that is stupid as fuck. This whole conversation, we've given you the benefit of the doubt. That James isn't trying to deceive us. That James actually believes this bullshit. And what your dumb ass just tried to do is to come at my history. And see, here's the thing that I know, James. Here's the thing that I know. I was born in 1986, James. I've never seen your ass. I don't know you. You've never seen me. You've never walked a day with me. So this was just another moment where you have demonstrated that you make claims of which you have absolutely no way of knowing. So again, you continue to demonstrate your intellectual dishonesty and your intellectual and your lack of intellectual humility. And honestly, bro, you was not on my level. I don't even want to be on the phone with your ass at this moment. You're killing me up here, bro. I'm expecting better. James, please come with something better, man.
Unmuted.
Okay. He's trying to figure out how to do it.
I said, are you through?
If you were listening, you would have known. See, context goes a long way, James. Context goes a long way, brother.
Did you answer the question, were you a deceiver or not? Did you deceive people?
I answered it very thoroughly. I answered it very thoroughly.
Now, since you were a deceiver, how can we know you're not deceiving us now?
Oh, James. Well, but see, James, the thing is, you've demonstrated that you wouldn't know, because, James, all I have to do is grab my degree back here and tell you all the ways that I have doctorates and masters and tell you and all the things that they're in, and that will be just enough information for you. But for the rest of us who have a sound knowledge, we know that the way you know things is not by trusting a person who's saying something. But, I'm going to take a church phrase. You got to get to know it for yourself, baby. And so taking my word for it, that's what the rest of us know. What the rest of us know is it doesn't matter who has a credential. It doesn't matter who has a degree. It doesn't matter who gets praised by anybody else. The only way you know something is when your ass did the work to know it. And you continue to demonstrate, James, that you are too fucking lazy to do the damn work.
When you get to this experience, that's when you know.
James,
when you experience it for
with
yourself.
you, sir. I'm done.
All right. Is the other guy still talking?
You're on mute, Forrest.
Oh, fuck, sorry. James, it sounds like you're more interested in doing battle than having a conversation with us at this point. So we're going to move on.
I'm having a conversation because we're trying to roll it into different kind of things. Now, you talking about... You misconstrued.
I tried to give you.
Hold on,
James.
Let me clarify. You misconstrued
I'm sorry, sir.
I said. Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
man. I tried to give you I gave you a really careful question about why you are allowing yourself to believe something that you don't, like, you wouldn't believe any other way. You would not use the reason you wouldn't use the reasons you would not use the reasons you've been giving me. I'm going to finish this. I'm going to finish this sentence if it kills you. You would not use the evidence you've been given us and the reasoning you've been given us for this God to believe in anything else. And when I tried to present you with that and actually get you to talk about the evidence, and we gave you the chance to talk about your evidence, the first and only thing you did was try to attack the credibility of my friend Lamar. And as Lamar, as I'm just Darante, Lamar. Fuck me.
Didn't.
So I'm just going to move on. I think you should call us back. James, I think you should call us back sometime when you can put this in a little bit of a different order, because I think right now, I think you're a little bit all over the place. And I think if you look back at this conversation, you'll see that, like, we really were giving you the benefit of the doubt and we really were following what you were saying, but I don't think we're getting anywhere right now. So we're going to move on to the next caller, but I do genuinely appreciate your call. And I would like to talk to you again someday. Take care, James.
This next blunt is on you, James. It's on you.
Fucking Darante Lamar, otherwise known as Damar. Just
That's not the first time I've gotten that. It's a fusion.
Well, I'll go by Valkai for the rest of the fucking show as well, because it's just so stupid. God.
Oh man. I love it.
Wow, that was a great clip we just watched. Hey, Eve, what should the people do now?
Leave a comment, click like, subscribe, patreon.com/ does that say call the line?
Yeah. But if you could have made, we could just make it a little more natural. On the next clip, the outro will be much better.